So, what's it like to transition from a mental and emotional state that might have a little bit of activation, some kind of bind within the ego self, into a greater aspect that is free and that receives in an unlimited receptive way? So, let's start right now with more of the bound, contracted self. The first thing is to remember that wanting to judge or reject that is not the smart part of you trying to get better. It's another version or another voice of the contracted part of ourselves that's fighting itself. So when we always hear about acceptance, it's not just random, but it's actually to stop the layers upon layers of perpetuation of our contraction that come from self-judgment and avoidance of what is. So acceptance stops that spiral. Ironically, being with what is what allows it to rest and to release its firm grip. So we start out by observing what is. Oftentimes, our attention is focused on the outside world. Our thoughts are about other things, our planning is about the future. Even if we're feeling something emotionally, we're often thinking about the other person we're having a relational conflict with. So the first thing we do is we take our attention into our somatic sensations, our current somatic sensations. And one tool to lead us to that is the breath, because the breath enters the center of the body. So when we follow the breath, our attention can enter the center of ourselves as the breath guides us within. And right now, we're not using the breath to do anything besides illuminate our perception of what's there. So notice that our intention is on neutrally or lovingly, whichever one is available, observing ourselves, observing our current experience. We're becoming more curious and we're becoming more attentive witnesses. And as we become more attentive to our somatic experience, we might notice certain places within the energetic body or even the physical body that feel a little contracted or painful. We're not doing anything to them, we're just observing them. When energy is paid attention to, it naturally moves somehow. Sometimes that movement means it'll contract more before it releases. That's normal. So rather than doing or manipulating, we are curious witnesses, and if possible, we're loving witnesses. Every contraction we feel in the body has an energetic sensation, as well as information or consciousness or a story that we could perceive. We have the capacity to manipulate the energy. We can do this with our breath, we can do this with our intention, but we're not exercising that right now. That might be the difference between, let's say, the more, quote, masculine and doing stance, and instead being in the more feminine, receptive, observing stance. Being with. Similarly, we have the capacity perhaps to get curious about what the information is, what the story is, what the consciousness is. If we choose to do so, that's also a little bit more of the doer. So we can get in there and inquire, or we can just be with. Sometimes our contractions want us to know them before they move on. Sometimes simply witnessing how they feel is enough. Sometimes they want us to know something. So let's imagine for a moment, find one of those areas of pain or contraction, and notice, and this isn't even as a metaphor, this is quite literal. Notice how, if this configuration contains energy and information, this is its own unit of consciousness. This is a being. This is a little beingness, a stitch in the great fabric of all beingness. Here is one stitch. What is this? Who is this? And so if we personify it a little bit to have our cognitive perception be able to consider what it's like to meet a beingness that's residing within our greater beingness, how would we approach a new being that we're meeting that maybe we don't yet know anything about? So notice how and where we approach from. And receiving feedback from what we feel about how this aspect of ourselves wants to be approached. Maybe it wants a lot of closeness, maybe it needs space. Find out if it wants closeness or wants space. What's the meeting place? What's the touch point? What's the pacing needed? Notice the natural pacing, not the pacing of the mind wanting to do something. This may be like approaching a very young child who's afraid. How would you approach them? There's a lot of attunement and listening involved. And if there is contact, whatever that might mean, what's the tone? What's the quality? And this is where, if possible, we can bring in that deep feminine nurturance, that compassion that's not trying to change whoever it is that we're approaching, but that's simply extending a soft hand of connection, of relationship. And yes, this might be physically painful as we do it. Noticing that we can rest in the aspect of ourselves that's totally at peace. And that's as spacious as we need to be. Sometimes we need to balance the contraction that we're feeling, especially if it gets stronger, with resting in our expanded spaciousness. This gives the contraction greater background to dissolve into. We can be expanded and intimate at the same time. Notice if the sensation that we've been focusing on maybe shifted to other parts of the body or other shapes. So as we continue, we're going to continue to do this practice from an even more expanded aspect of ourselves. So notice that we're not abandoning our more contracted aspects in order to experience our expansion, but instead we allow them to remain. And the sense of I, the sense of identity of whoever it is that's been observing and caring for them, is simply going to be bigger. This allows us more capacity. And we can make this shift simply with our intention. And if it's helpful or accessible, we can step into a memory of what it's like to be our expanded aspect from another time that we were resting as ourselves in this way. And what's always available to us, and what I invite all of us to call upon now, are those who work with us in the unseen worlds and who are here to support us in this process. So we invite now the archangels. We invite our guides, our helpers, the deities and masters who work with us. within your heart, please ask for permission and invite whoever it is that comes to you, whether they have a name or not. And notice how as you let go and expand, you may feel both more pleasure and more pain potentially. Whatever it is that's unfolding is natural, and we trust. The ground that we have been standing in becomes once again a more expansive ground. And the pain that we've been observing while receiving so much more energy and capacity may at first augment a bit as it learns itself in a new way and eventually reconfigures. You can think about it as spreading a large white tablecloth across a big table. At first, there are some areas that are folded or bunched up. Those are the contractions. Eventually, they get smoothed out into a greater coherence. That's what this spaciousness allows for. It provides a template of coherence that the more contracted aspects of ourselves can learn and reconfigure into. In this way, it's a natural alchemy. There's nothing that we actually need to do. We're observing these waves and these changes and these sensations as they shift. Simply the combination of two different frequencies simultaneously create alchemy. There's no doing necessary. There's simply choice of where we're standing from, of who we're standing as. So once again, we prioritize our view and our stance from an even greater alignment. We say yes to being taught that which we have not yet seen. We say yes to being cleansed. Every time we say yes, we open, we allow, and we receive. And we are witness to the waves that come through and transform us. We open to timelessness. We watch how the definitions of worlds begin to undo themselves. How space-time unconfigures and dissolves into the unknown. And we release ourselves even further. We ask in permission that which we've been holding on to, which no longer serves us, to naturally dissolve away with no need for processing. It's simple and soft and immediate. We allow ourselves to let go of our burdens. And in the process of doing so, we acknowledge with open hearts how much we have loved our burdens and how they have been our friends. And we thank them for this friendship. We let go of configurations of identity, of shapes that we had become so used to being. And as we do, we honor those shapes and how much intimacy we've had with adhering our identity to them. We honor all of the ones that we have been. We thank our identities and our experiences and our stories. We thank our troubles, our adventures. We see all of the attachment that we have had with them. And we see how the attachment is made of love. The intimacy of our experiences. And with love, we let them float away on the river of their own destiny, their own future, as we release ourselves into our own and allow ourselves to continue rising and opening, to continue releasing and unfolding. And in the center of our hearts, we say yes to our freedom. And we feel ourselves held in the grace of God and held in the arms of angels. As we ourselves open our wings and welcome ourselves back home. We experience and view everything from the center of the heart as it continues to open. And we give time for this opening over and over again. Listening to and following the timing of the waves as we naturally unfurl and reconfigure and open. We feel ourselves as this limitlessness. Whatever contractions remain in the body location, we allow them to open from within, like the tiny contracted point of the Big Bang, exploding in all of its true spaciousness. We meet every contraction within us like a tiny point, and the moment we touch it, it opens. Like fireworks. Like a spherical wave in all directions. Taking up its true space. No longer bound. No longer needing to be small. Everyone is free. And we stand in the infinity of ourselves. Everything we observe from this great view. And we feel the rest, the resting. We allow ourselves to rest in this expanse. And we feel the compassion of the great embrace of all beingness. Allowing the divine feminine to reveal herself within us and around us. As we rest into safety. Feeling ourselves deeply held. Letting go of anything we might feel we need to do. And giving ourselves over to her holding. feeling ourselves settle. Dissolving into the stillness. And feeling the embrace. If there are any aspects left of the human self that are needing attention, or a deeper touch or connection, and feeling this unconditional acceptance seeping into those places that might still be needing to receive. Allowing this softness to seep into the crevices that might still be a little tight. Like water seeping between stones and entering into a place that hadn't yet received water. We let it rain within us. Cleansing and washing and touching and filling us. We feel and invite and receive Yemangja, the Great Mother, of the oceans, as we rest and bathe in her. As we are seeped in all of ourselves, every aspect of being. Resting in deep, continuous, unconditional love. Filling the center of our hearts with this calm. Filling our bellies, our pelvic bowl with fullness. Feeling our root naturally open. Feeling how Mother Earth said yes to your incarnation. And her continuous welcoming of you. We feel ourselves honoring this divine relationship. This choice across worlds. This union. We feel our infinity. We feel our deep grounding. And they are not separate. They've become one and the same. And we rest here. We deeply, deeply rest. We feel the vitality of Mother Earth entering the energetic body. And bringing vitality to the physical body. So every time we breathe, we feel her light entering the base of our spine, rising up our back body. Flowing up to the top of our heads and flowing down our front body. And collecting in our base. Collecting the power of our personal energy field in our pelvic bowl and lower belly. And again, we allow her vitality to rise within us, along the back of the spine, the back of the neck, over the head and falling down our front body like a waterfall. bathing our chest, our solar plexus, collecting and swirling in our belly like a ball of light. We feel the vitality, the natural growth of this ball of light, and how our vitality extends throughout our whole bodies, all the way to our hands and feet. And we feel ourselves as this pulsation. We feel the aliveness of Mother Earth's heartbeat within our own pulsation. We are one heartbeat. Golden liquid vitality. Pulsing through our physicality as we remain infinite. And also completely here. We open once more the back of the heart. We open with the next breath the center of the heart. We open with the next breath the front of the heart. We feel the rising and the falling of the great waves of Mother Earth's pulsating heart, straight from her center through all of our cells. We say yes to this life force, to this natural soft ease and power. To the simultaneity of our infinity and our embodiment. And maintaining and continuing this experience, we open our eyes and we allow it to continue naturally and easily. Very much here and in all directions. And as we open our eyes, we rest in our physical environment. We observe slowly that which we see as a part of that which we know and that which we have felt. Everything one interconnected story. of infinite creations upon creations. And here we are in the intricacies of this one, of this exact point in time space, the exact room that we're in, the shapes and the fabrics and the colors, the precision, the detail. And allow your sense faculties, your sight, your touch, your hearing to take in and integrate that detail. So all this meditation now comes to a close. The beingness that it has described does not. Thank you to God and Spirit and all of those who have worked with us here today, who have worked with us in the past and who will continue to work with us in the future. We give our deep thanks for your teachings and your guidance. And we say yes to this grace. We say yes to standing in the fields of love and teachings, and of our greatest purpose and mission and interconnection. And so it is. Amen. Please give thanks in your own way.